Hi everyone, how are you? Welcome to the vlog. I hope you're having a great day. I'm back on the couch, my favorite comfy place to be when I make these vlogs. So today I'm going to talk to you about my updated blood work. I just got all my tests done, my hormone tests and everything, and I wanted to go through the key things that I'm working on that are really a contributor from the adrenal fatigue, what I'm working on, what's out of whack, what I'm doing to shift it. Now, disclaimer, any of the things I'm doing or taking, please don't just hop on them. It's so important that you get your own testing done, that you work with someone to give you the proper recommendations, because what works for me may not work for you, and certain things can hurt certain hormones and help others depending on what's going on. So the key is to make sure that you are investigating and getting the proper recommendations, guidance, and support yourself. So just that disclaimer is really important, but I'm excited to go through this with you today. This is so common. I see so many of my clients struggling with the things I'm going to talk to you about today. So right before we do that, make sure you're subscribed, hit the subscription button and the notification bell so you get notified when I post new videos, which happens weekly. And I'm so excited that you're here with me today. I love coming to you from the couch. It just feels like I'm having a conversation with a bunch of my friends. And I get to teach you about these imbalances that are so common yet so overlooked, or, we don't end up seeing them unless we get the testing done. So make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss out. And if you have questions or you're learning anything, you want to share a takeaway, leave a comment, hit the like button so that I know you like these kinds of videos, so that I know what to make to help you on your journey to food and body freedom. So I had a bunch of blood work done, and it's actually crazy. I went Saturday and it came back that afternoon. Excuse me. It came back the same afternoon, which never happens. And so of course I opened it up right away and I was like, oh, I'm so eager to see what's going on, because the week before last, TMI, but my metabolism was slowing down a little bit. My hunger signal was starting to shut down a little bit, and my bowel movements weren't as steady, and I was feeling kind of constipated. I'm like, is there something going on with my thyroid? It started to feel like my thyroid was a little bit off. So I opened up my test results and everything was there. And so what I'm going to really touch on today is I'm going to talk about adrenal fatigue, cortisol levels. I'm going to talk about the thyroid, specifically hypothyroid, and I'm going to talk about estrogen dominance, which is high estrogen, low progesterone. I got everything else done, like my testosterone's good, DHEA is good, my B12 is really good, my iron and ferritin, vitamin D, magnesium, calcium, electrolytes, cholesterol, C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory marker, homocysteine, a methylation marker. Everything else looked really good. It was just these key things, which is what I really dealt with about 12 years ago, a lot worse. But things have kicked up a little bit because of the poor sleep in the last 6 months and those adrenal glands still being off. So I'm going to explain all of that and why. But I have to tell you, at first when I opened everything up, I was I was frustrated. Let's not sugarcoat it. I was frustrated. I was upset. I'm like, oh my God, again. I hope this is the last time I have to do this. It was so out of my hands, again, as you all know. And if you haven't watched any of the other vlogs, go back, watch the adrenal fatigue series. You'll get to learn more about why I'm healing adrenal fatigue again. It was completely out of my hands. And sometimes these circumstances come up and we have to not be hard on ourselves, and patience and compassion with the body. So I opened them up and I looked at my thyroid right away, because I am like, I feel like something's a little off. And so for me, something being a little off, it's just a slight shift and I can feel it. So my thyroid is just slightly off for me and my body. However, being that I already made changes this week, things are already feeling better with my thyroid and bowels and all kinds of good stuff. So what I see so commonly is that when the cortisol levels, the stress hormone, starts to go up or too low, it really can start to have a negative impact on our thyroid, estrogen and progesterone for women. For men as well, estrogen can go up sometimes, but low testosterone I find to be very common as well. So when I was looking through my results, to just summarize, my cortisol is still high, albeit it's 100 points less than last year, which is shocking considering 6 months ago how stressful things were. So here in Canada, the range is different than the States. So the Canadian is 170 to 500, which is way too big. Optimal is 350. So it's 5 to 65 with my cortisol, which thank God it's down 100 points, but it needs to come down more, which I'm diligently working on. And then my thyroid, and I'll explain all of this, but my thyroid just slightly off, just slight signs of hypothyroid. And then my estrogen's too high, my progesterone's too low. So let me explain all of this. So what happens when the adrenal glands start to get really overstimulated and we produce a lot of cortisol? The body's overstimulated. Okay, all the symptoms, the fatigue, the brain fog, trouble falling asleep, abdominal weight gain, cravings, puffiness, irregular cycle, all kinds of things can happen. And so I see this trifecta all the time, not just with me, but with my clients. And that's why I do testing with all my clients. And if you want to connect to talk more about getting your hormones tested, investigating why you have the symptoms you do, the gut health issues, the binge eating, emotional eating, weight loss blocks, etc., you can click the link below to book a 30-minute complimentary body freedom consultation. We connect on Zoom, you fill it in intake form, and it helps us really connect and talk about your struggles, your goals, your symptoms, what's holding you back, why you're stuck, and why a different approach may be exactly what you need. And then we can explore the coaching programs available to help you on your journey to food and body freedom. But I see this trifecta all the time. So cortisol goes off. And when our cortisol goes off, it really impacts the pituitary. And the pituitary is a gland. It's in like just above where your eyebrows are. Some people say it's the third eye. But it gets overstimulated, and the more overstimulated it gets, the more it impacts your adrenal health and your thyroid health, because the pituitary produces thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay. And so a thyroid stimulating hormone, we don't want it to get high. The higher it gets, the more underactive, sluggish, hypothyroid is the sciencey term, your thyroid gets. And the more hypothyroid you have, that's the sluggish thyroid, the more sluggish your metabolism gets. Constipation, the bowel slowdown, cold hands and feet, eyebrow thinning, hair loss, no appetite, no hunger signals, especially in the morning or through the first half of the day. And I just felt, this is the great thing about being attuned with your body, which you can all learn to do. But I just felt like my metabolism was slightly off. I wasn't getting the same strong hunger signal. And that's how I know something's going on with the thyroid a little bit. So what happens is the pituitary gets overstimulated, and then we produce too much thyroid stimulating hormone. It's unfortunate though, because the ranges are way too big. So as the example, my thyroid feels like she thrives with a TSH number of about 0.6 to 0.7. And when I got my blood work back, I was a 1.81. Now that still looks perfect. It looks like it's beautiful in the normal range, but sadly they keep making the normal ranges bigger. The normal range here is 0.05 to like 6.50 now. It used to be 4.00, but I see so many women having hypothyroid symptoms in like the 2s, the 3s, the high 1s, and I was a 1.81, and I'm having constipation, slower metabolism, puffiness, right? A bit more hair coming out. And so it doesn't have to be out of the normal range for you to have the symptoms and to have this picture. And that's why I think if you're not happy, if you go and see someone and they're telling you everything's fine, like trust your body, trust your intuition, because your body isn't wrong, you're not crazy, it's not all in your head, and work with someone who's going to really champion with you and advocate and take a more holistic read of your results, because you can have all kinds of imbalances in the normal range, just like mine shows. So my TSH 1.81 starting to go a little too high, and then your thyroid produces the T3 and T4 thyroid hormones. And what happens is the adrenal glands start to get overwhelmed of producing all this cortisol and start to get depleted. And so they have to steal other hormones to convert into cortisol to keep you functioning in this high overstimulated state. And so my adrenals start to steal T3 and T4 to convert into cortisol. And then I see my T3 and T4 start to drop. So my T3 and T4 are a little bit on the low end right now. My T4 is 13.3. Ideally, it should be at least 16, 15, somewhere in there. So I've got a bit of work to do to get it up. And then my T3 is the 3.6, and ideally it should be at least 4.5 or 5. But again, like I said, I've already started to take the steps, and I'll touch on that right away of supporting my thyroid a little bit more to help settle things down. So then the third thing that will end up happening, and I see this with a lot of women as well, is that the adrenal glands will keep stealing other hormones to convert into cortisol. And that's why getting your cortisol tested and actually working on regulating your nervous system and looking at all the things that are contributing to high or low cortisol is so important. And just taking supplements is not going to be enough. It's so much behavioral, habitual, lifestyle changes, habits, self-sabotage, your mindset, your thoughts, your beliefs, what you focus your energy on, what your emotional state is, how you're sleeping, how you're eating, are you drinking enough water, are you over caffeinating? Like there's so many things, and you can hear more about all that in the previous adrenal fatigue vlogs. But it's called the progesterone steal. So just like the thyroid, T3, T4, the adrenal glands will start stealing progesterone to convert into cortisol, and that's why they call it the progesterone steal. And so as an effect of that, what happens is ideally estrogen and progesterone should be pretty level, pretty balanced together. But when your progesterone drops because your adrenal glands are stealing it, oftentimes, if the environment's right, the estrogen will have no choice but to go up and dominate. And then they go completely out of whack. And that's where I'm at. I've had it before. It's not as bad as it was before, but my progesterone's too low. My estrogen is too high. Now, this is, part of this adrenal fatigue picture and just all the stress and the noise and everything that happened in the fall. And so now that I'm aware, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like just feeling more warm and puffy than I usually do, having a bit more brain fog. My mind isn't as clear and just not quite feeling myself. Like I know it's because of the hormone stuff. So I take care of myself and I honor my body, and it's already shifting now that I've amped up some of the stuff I'm taking and made some changes. But I mean, think of how many people will never get this done, and then you have anxiety, depression, you don't feel like yourself, your hair is falling out, your gut health is a mess, your mood is a mess, you're exhausted, you're gaining weight and you don't know why, your PMS symptoms are through the roof, your menopause symptoms are through the roof, your cycle's all over the place, or maybe you're not having a period, you can't get pregnant, like your cravings are through the roof, your appetite's non-existent or going like way the other way and you're overeating. Like getting hormones tested is a vital, important part of healing. And it doesn't matter your age. Like I've worked with women from 21 to 90 and seen the same imbalances all across the board. It's not in your head. You're not making it up. You don't have to be a certain age to have hormone imbalances. The first time this happened to me, I was 24, and they were worse because I had just stopped binge eating, right? And I'm obviously haven't done that for years. And so thank goodness I know what to do to address it. But this is a picture. I would say about 99% of my clients have a cortisol issue. 85 have a thyroid issue, and most don't even know they have it. And then about 65% I would say have the high estrogen, low progesterone. I also see a lot of women with low progesterone and estrogen because the adrenal glands start stealing estrogen to convert into progesterone or into cortisol as well. So obviously the first thing that I'm doing is I'm heavily supporting my adrenals. I don't do caffeine. We're asleep by 9 p.m. My tech boundaries are super solid and I tighten them up even more. I've been scheduling a bit more of my content, making sure I unplug right away after my day is done and keeping my phone upstairs. I also just got a PEMF mat. Am I saying that right? From Bond Charge, and a red light. So that's going to help as well. And I'm going to link a link below if you want to go and check out all their amazing stuff. I have their blue light blocking glasses as well. This is really important for nervous system regulation, cortisol regulation. So if you want to go shop and you want to check out some of their stuff, you can use my code below and go and check out all their great stuff because it does help. And I think having these extra tools is important because it's going to help you regulate your nervous system. I take things like ashwagandha and blackcurrant bud. I'm taking a B complex and extra B6, both for good mental clarity and progesterone. I take a good probiotic for good gut health, okay? And then I've added in some extra things specifically for, I'll walk through each of these things, but I just added in a little bit more adrenal support because I feel like my adrenals need it. But all my other habits are pretty good. Like I'm not, over caffeinating. I'm resting right now. I just walk, sit outside, do gentle yoga. I'm not pushing it in the gym. So I know that this will course correct, especially because the noise has been resolved and I'm very mindful with my work-life balance. And I have lots of really healthy ways to cope with stress, meditation, EFT tapping, which tapping is such a great way to regulate your nervous system, get you out of fight or flight back into rest and digest. So the first key is always making sure the adrenal glands are well supported because it's fueling the thyroid and the estrogen dominance. And I also take pituitary drops for my pituitary because the pituitary is overstimulated from the adrenal fatigue and then I'm producing too much TSH. So that's the first thing that's really important is the adrenal health and making sure my habits are as best I can in alignment with helping my nervous system regulate. And I know for a lot of you and a lot of us, it's like you have life, you have kids, you have jobs, you have businesses, you've got multiple responsibilities, and then you throw people pleasing, binge eating, getting to bed late and all the other things on top of it. And it's just the perfect storm for these kinds of imbalances. And it's not your fault, but we must be willing to work on addressing the roots if we really want to see the bigger changes. And if you want to connect to talk about working together on that, click the link below to book the 30-minute complimentary body freedom consultation. It's going to really help and give you a lot of awareness around what maybe is holding you back and stuck and why you haven't been able to make the changes that you want. And so for my thyroid, this was really easy for me. For the thyroid, I take desiccated thyroid. It's a natural thyroid support if you don't have Hashimoto's. So testing is always important depending on what kind of supplementation you're going to do for your thyroid. Because if you have Hashimoto's, there's certain things you shouldn't take that are going to help if you just have hypothyroid, which is underactive thyroid. So I take desiccated thyroid, I up my dose a little bit, and then I added in selenium. And I added in turmeric and fish oil just for inflammation, which is also great for estrogen, the liver, all that kind of stuff. And I add a lot of ginger and turmeric and cinnamon and anti-inflammatories into my food, like avocados and eggs and hemp or chia seeds. We eat really well, so I didn't really have to change anything in my food. But yeah, just really making sure that I'm supplementing properly. And rose essential oil is really great for the thyroid. So I've been massaging my thyroid a little bit more, talking to her, asking if she needs anything, using the rose essential oil. And then also, it's the throat chakra, it's the expression. And it's like, am I holding anything back? Am I expressing myself and speaking my truth, or am I holding back? And that's that throat chakra, and we don't want it to be blocked because that can contribute to thyroid issues. A lot of my clients that have thyroid issues are massive people pleasers, and they choke their words back and they don't say no or ask for what they need because they're afraid to cause conflict or be abandoned or be judged or met with resistance. And so they hold it all back, suppresses the thyroid, overwhelms the nervous system. So for me, it's like easy, small changes because I know, and like I said, I've already seen a positive improvement with digestion and bowels and feeling a bit of a shift with the metabolism. It's like I can feel my thyroid reactivating and just waking up back up a little bit more. And I know within the next coming days and weeks that it'll shift, and I'll get my thyroid tested again in probably 6 weeks to just see that things are back to normal, because that's about all it should take. Maybe a little longer for the T3, T4, but it shouldn't take that long for my TSH to come back down, especially because I'm just going to keep honoring my body, and I'm hoping the weather gets nicer so I can spend more time outside. Sunshine, fresh air, so important for your circadian rhythm, your hormone health, everything, right? So hopefully after our snowstorm, this week we'll have a shift there. And then with the progesterone and estrogen, I've gotten back on a couple of things to help clear estrogen out of the body, like DIM and calcium D-glucarate. And then I have my yam cream, which yams are rich in progesterone. And so I kind of just intuitively tap in. My body's like, I'm not quite ready for it yet. My body's like, wait until you move through this cycle and then start it after that. So probably in a couple weeks, I'll start doing the yam cream, just a little bit because you don't need a lot. But that's going to help build my progesterone back up and help me eliminate the estrogen. I also do dry brushing every day, usually, or 6 days a week about, and a hot and cold shower to help keep my lymphatic system draining really well. And that will help me flush out the estrogen more efficiently. And you have to make sure you're having daily bowel movements, because if you're not, there's excess estrogen your body's eliminating via the bowels. And if you're not getting that out, you're reabsorbing that estrogen. And that is another way to increase estrogen levels. Once my hormones start to regulate, my sleep improves a little bit more, my energy gets a bit better, I will be going through a very gentle Candida protocol. I don't do anything restrictive. We don't cut out fruit or carbs or things like that. We don't eat refined sugar, rarely gluten, dairy, so it's easy. But I will be doing a Candida protocol just very gently, because I know there's a bit there. I started it last fall but had to stop just because things got too bad with the sleep and the stress. So don't push through and over detox if your body's really stressed, because it's just going to make you more exhausted. So as we learn how to listen to our bodies, we can pace things at a pace that feels good for us. And what that's going to do is that's just going to further eliminate any chances of estrogen dominance coming back, because estrogen breaks down into simple sugars and feeds that unhealthy Candida, and then Candida feeds estrogen. So that's a gut thing that I'll work on thereafter that will just help with all of this regulation. But one thing at a time. It's so important that we work on regulation of the adrenals, getting the thyroid strengthened, and start to eliminate that excess estrogen and get that progesterone up. And of course I eat like I have carbohydrates in the morning. I wake up, I have half an apple with cinnamon and some hemp seeds. Then I have a hard-boiled egg, and I have my smoothie that has like collagen, L-glutamine powder, cinnamon, avocado, berries. Like, you need carbohydrates in the morning when you have an adrenal issue. And then I always have a mid-morning snack with like veggies and nuts. And then I have my lunch, lots of protein, turkey, chicken, beef, whatever, with lots of veggies and fat. And then dinner, I usually have a big salad with like 3 or 4 kinds of veggies, eggs, some kind of starchy vegetables like carrots, beets, potatoes, sweet potatoes. I'm not really eating any estrogen rich foods. Here's the other thing: when you have estrogen dominance, you want to be mindful of your estrogen rich foods intake. So things like flax seeds, yams, the orange potato. I don't do soy. I wouldn't recommend soy if you have high estrogen. Peas, beets. There's a few things that are high in estrogen, chickpeas and hummus, but I have kind of been pulling back because I kind of had a feeling it was a bit off. But I don't feel restricted because there's so much that I make and that we eat that's so good. And if I just have beets once or twice a week, it's not a big deal. But I don't suggest having multiple estrogen foods a day, because when I first had estrogen dominance 12 years ago, I was having like peas, beets, yams like every day, adding all the starchies in because I love them and it was just easy. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I found out I had estrogen dominance, and then I'm like feeding it with these foods. So I had to just, rearrange a few things: more beans, more potatoes, more asparagus and broccoli and cauliflower, cooked of course, because if you eat a lot of raw broccoli and cauliflower, it can inhibit your thyroid. So this is where getting help is important, because it's complex and multi-layered. And because I've gone through this and I help so many with it, I know what to do. So please, I really encourage you to not try and figure this out yourself, because it can hurt some things more than help them, and we don't want that. But that's what's going on. So I'm already feeling a shift with the things I've added in this week. It's only temporary. I'm not going to have to stay on the extra thyroid support, the extra adrenal support, or the estrogen stuff. Once it's sorted out, I'll be able to go to back to my foundation, which is probiotic, vitamin D, my ashwagandha, which I just love to take anyway, and what else? My desiccated thyroid. So I'll be able to go back to the base after things shift, but I'm happy to better support my body now. So it's like nervous system regulation, great self-care practice, sleep, tech boundaries, good nourishment, fresh air, getting outside, and adding in some things to help. So that's what's going on. I'm curious to hear from you. What questions do you have about this? Do you suspect you're having some of these symptoms or issues? Have you been told everything is normal, but it doesn't feel like it is? Leave me a comment below. Let me know what a takeaway is. I'm really intrigued to hear from you and what might be going on for you and your body and your hormone journey. And make sure you are subscribed, like I said, because I feel like I'm just getting started and there's so much to share with you all. So make sure you're subscribed and that you hit the like button if you like what you're hearing and want to learn more. So thanks for being with me today and hearing a little more about what I'm going through with my hormone journey. I'm very optimistic, which is really important. And I know I can shift this. I'm so grateful for the knowledge I have because it's just helping me out really easily. And I'm excited I get to share it all with you. So thanks for being with me today, and we'll see you again soon for the next video.